Whew, hello, we're in the shop right now. Yep, I'm not in my usual outside studio at my palatial mansion. We're inside the HP woodworking area looking at a miter saw. It's a nice Black & Decker I've had for a long time, fairly good shape. Yeah, we're going to talk about something that's really important to know about a miter saw. The last video we did really went over some of the operational procedures that you need to learn, the safety procedures. Now those will be a part of this as well, but let's talk about what happens when you have to make repetitive cuts. Now what's nice about the way the saw is set up, it has a nice wooden extension fence here, extended table actually, and a fence. This part would be called the fence. It comes off the saw here, is bolted on here to make it go in both directions actually. And we're going to see how that works to make repetitive cuts. So I do have some repetitive cuts to make. I need to make a few 8-inch boards, so they're not very long. So that's an important safety aspect as well. When it gets small, you have to follow all the directions I'm going to tell you specifically. So in order to do that, here's a piece of poplar I have to make 3 8-inch cuts. I'm going to make one initial cut and then do a setup on this fence that will allow me to make very accurate repetitive cuts. That's the beauty of it. So this will come into play a lot on our project work. You're going to have to learn to use this to make repetitive cuts. We have 2 miter saws on the other side of the shop here that are used specifically for these repetitive straight cross cuts, those 90-degree cuts. This one is set up that way as well, but this saw on this side, the Black & Decker, is actually used to make angle cuts, and that's actually the next video presentation. So we're going to stick with just making these repetitive cuts the same. These are strictly cross cuts. I have another video that will show you a little bit about making angle cuts, and we'll get into the same concept, how to make angle cuts that are same. And sometimes the angles are going in different directions, so these are good things to learn. So here's the first thing I'm going to do. Take my tape measure, measure over here, mark 8 inches, mark 8 inches here. I could use a square, but I don't have my square with me. So now I'm going to set this up here. Oops, on this side, sorry. Because I'm going to set up my block on this side. I could set it up here because it's just a short little cut. But so you can see it well, I'm going to set it up right here on this wood fence. So I'm going to line up the cut with the line pretty close. Normally I would mark it across. I'm going to take a piece of wood. It's just a nice, clean, 90-degree cut piece of 2x4, and I'm going to use this as a stop box. I'm doing all this very carefully because you want to be careful when you do this. You want to set this up carefully. I'm going to take a nice, strong C-clamp, put it against the stop block, tighten it pretty good, not all the way. Go back and check my cut, raise up my blade so that I'm off the wood. And remember, that's one of the safety procedures. You start it, let it go to full speed before you ever cut it. You never start it on the wood. Please don't do that. It could be scary for you and me. Get in the right position, out of the line of the blade. Stand sort of like you're surfing or skateboarding. I'm going to check it again. Looks pretty close. Raise it up. I got my hand in position between the stop block and the blade. There's enough for a comfortable position, but I still learn to keep your fingers in and your thumb in as well. My thumb goes along the edge of the wood, keeping it against the fence a little bit of pressure that way. Now I start it. Goes down, and now the most important safety aspect of this to me is because it's a short blade a short board rather, that's in between a fixed stop and a moving blade. You have to make sure that when this goes down into this little ravine area that the blade goes into on a miter saw, you don't move it. You go down, you wait till it stops. Now I carefully bring it up, nothing can happen. Plus, it doesn't hit the edge, it doesn't mar anything here or grab it, which can happen. I've seen it happen, I've done it before. Put it back in position. Now, once I make that cut, I take my tape again and I check it. Woo, right on 8, beautiful. If I had to make an adjustment at this point, I usually would mark it with a pencil and maybe loosen this and tap it either way. Mark it again. If I was making a lot of these, make sure I put the stop block back in the same position if I had to move it. Tighten it a little bit, make sure it's good. The length of it's good. Now I'm going to make my 2 other cuts. Now watch as I do it again. I'm going to go through the same thing. Start it away from the wood, a few inches up in this up position. Doesn't have to be all the way up. I'll be down here near the wood, but at least a few inches away. Make sure everything's cleared off around the fence area. It's up against tight against this wood fence. It's up against the stop block cleanly. There's no big gap here because of some splinter or sawdust or something in the way. Push it up tight. Fingers in tight. Thumb against the edge. I'm pushing it. I'm standing in the right position. I turn it on. Go down. Leave it till it stops. I'll do it one more time, and I'll have successfully made 8-inch cuts on this board. I'll have 3 perfectly cut boards that are exactly the same length. All from using a stop block. Such a nice feature on this, using the fence and the stop block. One last cut. Believe me, it's better to be safe. Do this cleanly, slowly, wait till it comes to a stop. You're not in a big hurry. These boards will all be the same clean cut. Very nicely. Stop block, clamped to the fence, adjusting it carefully to get that right measurement. I check the accuracy of it and then make my repetitive cuts. I could make 100 of these, they would all be the same because now I have a stop block. I just go through that same procedure, make sure again that it stays down when you let that blade come to a complete stop and then pull it up. Believe me, that is a awesomely important safety factor when using the miter saw. So if that's good, all good. This should be a miter saw number 47, if I'm not mistaken. I will check it, but that's the number of it. There were a couple more, at least one more just on the miter saw. So very important tool, good to use on a project. So